Hello, I'm Noel, this is Antonia from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company, and we are, again, in the studio working on props, sets and puppets for Gulliver. It's been an interesting week. It's been a kind of, for me at least, it's been a typical sort of middle week, it feels like, where I've had a lot of funny problems to solve that slow you down, and yeah, I'm satisfied now that I've solved most of them. So I feel like finally, towards the end of the week, I was like, I'm happy with my progress. Whereas you have made loads of progress on
I made some
these little guys.
Lilliputians. Yeah, we decided that, so we've used the same basic idea that we had for the Lilliputians that are in the R&D footage, and that I think in one of the earlier vlogs back in 2020, there's a bit where Noel's making lots of Lilliputian bodies and things, and we talk about heads in that one, I think, potentially. But we've just developed it slightly, so we decided that it would be funny, since in Lilliput there is this whole thing about the way you break your egg, whether you break it from the top or the bottom, that it would be fun to have their heads just a little more egg-shaped than they were. So I've gone for slightly egg-shaped heads. This guy is the Emperor of Lilliput, so he's slightly taller than the other two. He's got a slightly bigger head, a nice, I've given him a sort of prominent nose because I thought that would be fun. Slightly pompous face.
Imperial.
Yeah, they've got nice big hands. Things are a little disproportionate for them in the sense that their arms technically are a little too long. Their hands are actually not too disproportionate. But in order to make sure that they read for an audience far away, we had to make sure that their faces weren't too small. And they do this nice. They walk with one. You just put your fingers in the feet there, and then they sit quite nicely. And you can actually leave their heads resting on the tops of their bodies if you want to, if you need to.
We kind of wanted options in that regard, didn't we? Because we knew that they might need to move around a little bit, but that there were only going to be three of us, so we didn't want to always have to have a couple of people operating it, especially on such a small puppet.
Exactly, you don't want too many hands getting in the way.
Yeah, so it's nice to have the option to be able to just walk them and still have kind of the head stay in place and everything, or just to hold the head in the arm and operate that, and to have a bit of movement in all of those parts of the body.
This guy's the last one to be done, so in fact the top of his leg needs trimming slightly because it likes to get stuck at the back, and his head isn't connected yet to the body. They connect via a papier-mâché on little tube with a flexible gaffer tape sort of joint that means that they can lift up and move left to right and up and down a fraction. So that'll be put on later. I've just got to figure it out because his head at the moment is leaning a little bit further back than I would like. So I probably just need to adjust the neck piece for him. This one's going to be the friendliest Lilliputian, the one who Gulliver kind of becomes friends with. So I've given him a slightly wider, friendlier face, but consequently I think that's what stopped it from sitting nicely on the neck. So I've just got to fix that later. They also all need clothes and hair. I'm going to give them all very different coloured hair each, so that they're just easily distinguishable from a distance. This one is a kind of the sort of slight villain. This one will be, so I'm going to give him some grumpy eyebrows. I might give the Emperor a moustache, I think. I haven't quite decided yet. So I've got that fun to be had. I always look forward to doing the hair. And their costumes are going to be very simple tabards, much this sort of on the similar vein as the ones that I made for the R&D, except for those were just cut out of paper, and I'm going to try and make them out of fabric. So they're doing pretty well, those guys.
Yeah, I think they look brilliant. I really, really, really like the faces. I love the shape of their heads. And the bodies are sturdy now. It's good.
Yes, so I had to papier-mâché them and add feet and hands. And now they're really rock solid because they're only made of pizza box. So we were a little bit concerned, weren't we, whether they would actually withstand...
Yeah, the first one was a bit of a test, really, wasn't it? To see whether we were going to have to make it out of some other material to make it a bit more durable. But
they're
actually,
really strong.
They're good, and they're light.
And they are light, so that's good. And then we've also started, Noel made a frame for this guy yesterday, and I've just given him one covering. He's going to be the King of Laputa, in fact. So he is a sort of dreamy fellow who constantly gets bopped on the head to return from the celestial whatevers to reality. So we're going to give him quite heavy eyelids, so that then hopefully when he tips his head down or back, that it'll look a little bit like he's drifted off or he's gone into a trance. But he's coming along nicely. He's at very, very early stages. You can still see the pizza box frame in the back there. But I really like the shape that you've given him so far. I love the mouth.
Yeah, and I like he's got a funny little expression.
We want him to be a bit pillowy, a bit kind of like a cloud. So I think you've got that nicely with these cheeks and stuff there. So he's coming along nicely as well. But it's likely that he's going to be in a similar vein, potentially, that he won't necessarily have any arms or anything. We've been discussing how we're going to make him, because he just basically needs to pop up and pop down again quite quickly. So we're thinking of doing a similar thing that we did with the Cratchit children in A Christmas Carol, where they kind of pop up out of the pocket for him.
It's interesting for this show because he actually is probably, well, at the moment I think he's the only kind of conventional, in our terms, moving mouth puppet that we've got, that that is as much like the puppets that we've used for Christmas Carol, say, and that's partly to do with the fact that because you've got all of these different challenges posed by the different lands that Gulliver goes to. You've got different problems in each case. You've got very small characters, you've got giants, and there aren't so many that are characters that just kind of turn up and have a normal conversation. There's usually some other job that they've got to do in terms of getting a message across visually. Whereas, say, for something like Christmas Carol, we actually had a lot of characters who they come in and they're effectively interacting as humans with the other characters in the scene. That's not really the case in this show. So we've got a lot of different types of puppet. Yeah.
They're all coming along nicely. I'm hoping to get a nice second coat on him today, and then maybe start the hair for these guys. That would be good. Meanwhile, you've been doing we had a slight problem, didn't we, earlier in the week? We showed you a piece of the anchor that we'd made, and in fact, I think if you just reach down into that box.
Oh yeah.
So basically, we were looking at it, and we were looking at the shape. And there was something that wasn't quite right, and it took us a while of sort of staring at it to fathom it out. But it wasn't looking powerful enough as an object. It was looking slightly small, even though it wasn't small. And basically, we decided that it was these arrow ends that were not helping us. They were kind of, because they had to taper off in the shape of the anchor, they looked quite small, and therefore it was making the whole thing feel a little bit childish, I suppose. So we've changed the shape. I don't know whether, can you see that?
Yeah, if you just sort of lean in a little bit towards me.
Yeah, so I had to basically, is that the shape, that the template? I think it's this.
So hopefully it's still in frame. You can see behind us the ends. The ends. If we lean into the middle, you can see the ends of the anchor. So we've lost that arrow thing, and it's turned into more of it's a bit more of an aggressive shape, and it also, as we were saying, also kind of it is wider and it draws the eye along, so it feels as though the whole thing sort of it feels bigger to me.
Yeah, it does. It's weird. I think it just wasn't. These are the things that you don't really know, and we'd made a very quick replica thing or prototype for the R&D, and that had gone to arrows at the ends. And it looked fine, really, but then we forgot, I think, that with the prototype, you forgive certain things, and then once you make the actual thing, you're then a bit more picky, I suppose. Anyway.
Yeah, so it looks good. It looks bigger, it looks stronger, and it looks darker as well, which I think was important. So yeah, pleased with that. And then other bits and pieces that you can see behind us here that I've been working on are ways to, and again, this goes back to the stuff that we were talking about last week, ways to attach our kind of cross pieces to the various masts that we've got on the set. So in some cases, we need to be able to take out one side or the other of those cross pieces. I don't know what the technical term is. In some cases, we need them to stay there, but to be able to support weight. And it was a puzzle in some cases to figure out how you could easily do that, easily get these things in and out, and still have them be completely collapsible and packed down into the trunk, so that they weren't going to be, you know, these big unwieldy pieces that we couldn't fit into the trunk for touring.
So Noel's been making all of these kind of contraptions.
So yeah, we've got various funny little, you know, doohickeys that fits onto the mast.
Do-whatties?
Doohickeys, you never heard that word?
No.
Doohickey, yeah. They fit onto the mast and they support the various kind of bits of wood that go in slightly different ways depending on the job that they've got to do. So this one up here will have some sort of swagging up there as like sails. These ones have got longer bits in that we take out and use quite a bit, we're imagining. And then on the top here, you should also still be able to see that we've got our crow's nest up there as well. So the crow's nest can come off, it's held on by magnets, and also this piece here had to be removable to do a special trick for one particular land, which I won't spoil now. Maybe we'll show you once we've got it all cleaned up and working properly.
So it's been a kind of contraption week for you, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, it really
Lots
has.
of head scratching and figuring out
that's it, yeah.
how
And
to
it's
fit bits together and not pull things over, and without, I mean, as we've said numerous times, if we could just build something giant that was the actual size of the thing, you know, and it didn't have to fold into a trunk or whatever.
then you could screw it together and you could, you know,
Yeah.
you could make it all absolutely
But
solid.
where would be the fun in that?
Where would be the fun in that? Exactly. So this has all got to come apart, collapse down, and then be quick and easy to put together, and yet still not fall to bits.
Yeah, and
it's being used.
look solid as well.
Yeah,
That's the other thing. You don't want it to look flimsy. So we're doing all right. We're going to carry on today. It's at that time really where we're working every day that we've got to make sure that we get it done ready enough for rehearsals to start. When invariably there will be things that we'll need to change or make extra of or whatever.
Yeah, no days off at the moment. Just
But that's okay.
yeah.
So I think that's it, isn't it, from what we've got? I think so. We've
Yeah.
done a few other bits and pieces, but we'll probably start showing you some of that next week. Like we've started working again on the hoon hymns, the horse puppets, but there's no point in showing you those at the moment because they're sort of very much work in progress. We'll show them to you next week. So yeah, I think that's it for now.
As usual, now the final thing that remains to say is, again, people are booking tickets
Oh yeah.
for the show in Edinburgh, which is brilliant. I mean, it's the thing is, having not had the Fringe Festival for a couple of years in a normal sense, we don't really know what to expect this time. We don't know how busy it's going to be. We don't know, how it's going to go. So the fact that people are buying tickets already is absolutely amazing. So thank you to anyone who has bought tickets. If you are planning to come up and you want to come along, then please do book. I mean, that would be brilliant. And for some things, I think it's kind of getting worth booking ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of dates that are getting quite full now, which is really lovely. So yeah, thank you all. And as always, if you are enjoying the vlogs, please do leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. That would be lovely. And we will see you again next time.